us out of the media area into our vehicles and made us go down a road. And then I was like, all right, well, I want to go back to the main media site at the Martial Law Command Center so I can find out what's going on, why we're having our rights taken away from us and we're not being allowed to do our job. So we pulled out of that area after being forced out by the police and had to go on this 20-minute drive, this runaround around Ferguson, because every time we go to a road, the cops would be blocking off like, oh, no, you have to go down the interstate and go to the next exit.
And by the way, the crew here is doing an incredible job as well. I don't know how they're able to do it. As you talk, they go through the hours of video that you guys uploaded live, and they are showing the police talking to you when you were talking to them. They look so angry and hateful that you would dare even want to be a mile away from where stuff is going. Unbelievable.
Yeah, they're completely trying to keep us from doing our job. Meanwhile, you know, Captain Johnson's getting on TV bad-mouthing the media saying that we're not doing our job. Well, he swore to an oath to uphold the Constitution. And I want to say, sir, you're not doing your job at all whatsoever. What you're doing is a disgrace to Americans and to the world. Out of control, out of control, out of control. And just giving us this oop-de-oop, this runaround around town, just driving. People were all over the place. I mean, there's never going to be traffic at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the only reason there was because they just kept redirecting people. Journalists all from every organization were trying to figure out what's going on. And then when we got out there, they held us out there until 2:30 in the morning because he was upset with how the media were doing their job. Then he came out with a bad attitude, moving some of the microphones around and all that stuff. Very unprofessional. The whole thing is just a complete joke of what they're doing. They're definitely hiding stuff. And like I said, the only way to get to the truth sometimes, you got to skip and hop and climb over a few fences. But that's the only way to do it because these guys are completely taking away to where we have to go to that extreme.
Well, this is how
to hide in the woods.
Exactly.
Something.
This is how totalitarianism works. One guy does something wrong on the block, everybody gets in trouble. That's Nazi Germany, that's Soviet Russia. You get thugs from out of town tearing stuff up, and as you said, they've got more police to harass the media than they do to chase down the thugs. Yes. That's a major news angle, Joe, that you witnessed that. We need to get a report out with one of our writers about that. That you witnessed, it sounded like you said about 5 to 1, the police presence was for the media and not for the out-of-town looters. I think that's major evidence that they may be provocateurs working for the feds. The feds have a history of doing that, Joe.
Yeah, they were more concerned about us than they were about the fires, about what was really going on out there. Their attention seemed to be purely on us and being right there in that media area. You know, and one of the questions someone asked is I think one of the ladies, she goes, sir, you said that the curfew was lifted. And he goes, yes. She's like, well, there's no one on the streets after midnight. You force everybody out of there. Isn't that, in fact, a curfew? Next question. And he wouldn't even answer that. All they do was duck and dodge real questions. That's all they did. It was a complete and total psyop to the teeth.
I'm looking at video you guys shot of these National Guard people. They look like kids.
Yeah, they're kids. They're babies. A lot of the one guy who has been filming out here all week with me that I've gotten to know, he was an ex-Marine, and he just kept sitting down there on the ground. He's like, hey, doesn't your mom know that you're out here? Did you get a permission slip for this? You know, don't you need to be doing some kind of homework or something? Because they were just babies. I mean, the guys, they didn't even know what they were doing out there. I would ask them simple questions. I'm like, hey, I used to be in the military. I was like, you know, where'd you guys come from? And I was like, well, so who's your point of contact for the media? I don't know who that is. I was like, well, you all came together. You came from the same unit. Why don't you know these simple questions?
Well, this is a ticking time bomb. They're out there with Beretta sidearms on 9mm. They have a run-in with any of these thugs or anybody. This could turn into a shooting situation like Kent State, and then all hell's going to break loose.
Exactly, because they're going to be very nervous. They're not going to know how to act under fire. I asked anyone if they had ever been active duty before. Most of them just said no. When I asked if they'd ever been in combat, most of them just shook their head no. So these are kids who have never been in any kind of really life experience, and they get put in this situation with a gun. They get thrown in front of people actually intending to do harm to them, and someone's going to get shot. It's definitely a recipe for disaster in Ferguson now that the National Guard children are here.
I got to say, I saw their commanding officer. He looked like he started shaving maybe last week. I've never seen National Guard that looks this green.
Yeah, they are. They're fresh off the, fresh out.
Well, Joe, I want you to be careful. No heroics tonight. Just try to follow what they say, even though it's unconstitutional and a bunch of baloney.
Well, the biggest thing I try to do is I try to listen to when I hear somebody say something really good, and then I run over and go like, hey, can you say that again real quick? And then I try to catch it that way. And with the police, you just got to be quiet and you've got to listen because they use the radios very low, and you can pick on a lot of the radio chatter that they're doing, their communication, and you can hear them, saying stuff that a little bit out there. So.
What are you hearing him say? What are you hearing him say?
Well, you can hear him, saying, hey, we need to get these guys out of here. And they're looking at us. And then they run over to the media. And then 1 minute, the guy on the speaker saying, hey, if you're credentialed media, you're fine. And then all of a sudden, you get some guys pull up in an SUV and jump out. And they're like, you can hear them whisper. And then they're like, no, now you guys need to go. And then they load up on that truck with the 7 guys and then go into the town or into that side road. So it's what the mainstream media doesn't do is pay attention to every little detail. That's why it's good that we have the 4 people out here today, that we can leave people in the sheep pen, the main stream media area, so we can hear
exactly
what the police tell the media, and then they radio back to us saying, hey,
sure,
this is just what they told us. Are you actually seeing that on the ground? And then I go and say, hey, no, that's definitely not happening, or it is. So we have a pretty good system set up now with information being sent back and forth.
Well, this is not a soap opera we're here following, even though in the scheme of things it's been blown out of proportion. We're analyzing the PSYOP from every angle to try to educate and inform listeners and viewers who aren't informed. A lot of our listeners are more informed than we are, but it's all part of a real media process of breaking down historically what's happening here. But at the same time, people are getting my punditry, where I really do genuinely blow up on air, flipping out over the fact. And then I'm going to the phone calls, and we're going to break. I just skipped the network break, and then we're going to go to your calls. But I realize I'm so upset, Joe. In closing, you were leaving yesterday as this article broke, the new Army training manual that's public, where they say they will kill unarmed civilians during full-scale riots as a PSYOP, how to wound or kill people to scare crowds away. So they're now putting war crime stuff off the chart in documents to the point of when I read this document, I start stuttering on air because it is such a horrific crisis to know that we've now moved to this point and that there's no media covering this. Drudge has been linked to this since yesterday, so we know all the media, radio, TV, print, is seeing this. We've got 4,000 comments on the article. We can look on the metrics and see that about 800,000 people have read the article or visited it, and there's no coverage of an official Army training manual saying the new policy is to kill unarmed Americans. I mean, this is over the top.
I mean, the fact that we're using CS gas by militarized police in America when NATO does not allow our military forces to use it on any enemy combatants is crazy in itself. That lets you know of what they're trying to go to now here. So I can believe every single bit of that. I've also had a couple of my military buddies over the past day contact me and say, hey, I've actually seen that recently. So they're familiar with that.
No, it's been issued. It's officially approved for public release. Distribution is unlimited. It was secret in April, and they just decided to put it out last Friday.
And the funny thing is, though, is when people see that, they're still going to deny it. And it's right there, and you can look it up. You can go to an Army base, and you can see it right there in black and white. But the mainstream media will go, nah, that's not real. That's not going to happen.
That's right. So. You could go to an Army base and go to their information office, and they could show you an official book of this.
Oh, they would give it to you like they would one of those Gideon Bibles at a hotel. I mean, they're not even going to think twice about it. Oh yeah, here you go. Here's a handbook on domestic terrorism against civilians. Hey, here you go. They're not going to care.
I literally cannot talk at this point. It's so over the top. It's just They're training to mow innocent people down. And again,
and the people are so dumb now that it's feasible. People now are so dumbed down from their Facebook, their TVs, all this stuff, reality TV, just being lazy and not caring whatsoever, that the government can literally come out with documents like this and put them in front of your face and wave it around, and the bulk of the population will sit there and go, nah. I've literally talked to people about stuff like this, nah, and show it to them. No, that's not real. That's impossible.
Well, this shows they're going to be light-handed for a while to sell the military on it. Because, again, we're not saying the military wants to do this. We're not saying they're bad. The media, if they do cover it, will spin it. Alex says the Army wants to line men, women, and kids up and kill them. No. They put this on paper. The issue is this is the official manual. This is the policy. So don't throw it onto the troops and say that I said they want to kill women and children. Or unarmed people.
We just want to know why they wrote it. Why is it put out there?
Why is this the new policy? Yes.
Exactly.
Don't change the subject, because I know how the PSYOP works out there. Well, our military would never do that. Bull. During a total collapse, when there's 10,000 people coming up your rural road to loot your town, I'll be out there to defend my family. But
don't you think that's funny that that's coming out now in the wake of what's going on in Ferguson with excessive militarized police and their unprofessionalism and how they're acting out of control and how they're restricting media and how they're taking our rights away? This is not a coincidence. This is all coming out now.
Well, look at how they're aiming. Look at how they're aiming rifles at our reporters in broad daylight and smiling. They've told them get ready to mow everybody down, and this is all some beta test. This is crazy town. And the PSYOP experts are testing the police and the military to see if they'll do it. Joe?
Yes, I've had sniper rifles pointed at me the first day or the second day I got here, right at my chest. I'm sitting here filming, and then the other night, Saturday night, I had 2 separate laser beams on my back while I'm running, with my hands up.
I just had.
I'm a journalist, and I have media written all over me. I've even checked in with those same police officers just prior to that, so they knew exactly who I was.
They are teaching them that we're the enemy. And as you said, they had 5-to-1 cops for the media instead of the looters last night. This is incredible. Rob Dew just came in here. He must have some breaking news. Rob Dew, the news director for the TV side. Go ahead.
Well, this came a tip from Thomas in Miami, Florida. He works for Florida News Service. And he said, please remind Alex, reporters do not just have First Amendment rights, but also Fourth Estate rights to report to the general public. And they can basically go inside police lines like general public cannot. Reporters can do that under the Fourth Estate rights. So,
well, in the past, because the police said, oh, we want reporters here. We want you to see what really happened.
Want to get the information.
Well, this is unprecedented. Exactly. Going after reporters is unprecedented.
And they just don't want people to see what's going on in case the police mess up and there's a reporter there catching it, because now it goes out instantaneous. I mean, the last few nights watching what's going on with the Ustream, the live stream, everybody just putting stuff up, it really is amazing. And the media is really showing its power at this point. And you can tell because the cops are scared. The cops are scared of the media. They keep pushing them back and pushing them back. And it's disgusting, but it also shows how much power we have by just being there and showing up with cameras.
Joe, the way to do this is to go befriend 3 or 4 strategic houses in the area and even offer to give them some money to let you use their houses as bases at night. That's the way to stay in there, and then to go get those reports done. So you've done a great job. I'm going to let you go because we need to get to these phone calls, but great job. And just stay safe tonight or stay outside the police lines. But as you said, they just keep pushing you back. Pretty soon, they'll push you so far south, you'll be back in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I have a plan for tonight, though. I think I'm going to get back in the side road where that neighborhood is. So when they do start trying to sweep everybody out, I'll be back in that area, and I can go ahead and start filming them and watch them when they come into the neighborhood. And I want to see exactly what they're doing. I've already seen a bush, a yard where I want to hide. I'm just going to get down, lay down, and film.
Well, that sounds like somewhat of a plan, but you'll have the homeowner's rights at your back if you make friends with the locals. Don't you think that's what needs to be done?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll all be watching it tonight at Infowars.com. Pray for Joe Biggs and the rest of the crew there in Ferguson, Missouri. We have a guest coming up, an expert on the police state. and an author. Stay with us and your phone calls. I'll get to you.
We're on the march.